The scorching twin suns of Iridian beat down mercilessly on the cracked surface of the disputed territory. Swirling dust clouds gathered on the horizon, painting the sky a sickly amber as the sounds of plasma cannons echoed across the barren wasteland. This desolate planet had become the latest battleground in the ongoing war between the Earth Alliance and the Silvari Empire. Princess Valixia stood atop the command vessel, her translucent, pearlescent skin shimmering with rage as she watched human forces advance upon Echo 7 outpost. Her iridescent eyes, containing swirls of purple and blue, narrowed as she adjusted the royal pendant hanging from her neck. A family heirloom passed through 17 generations of Silvari royalty. "Your Highness," her commander approached cautiously. "The humans have breached the outer perimeter. Our forces are engaging, but they have superior numbers." Valixia's jaw tightened, the bioluminescent markings along her temples pulsing with anger. "Then, we shall make them pay for every inch with their blood. I want no survivors." She had made this vow repeatedly since the Earth Alliance first violated Silvari territory 5 years ago. As heir to the throne, she had personally led countless counteroffensives, earning a fearsome reputation among human troops, who called her the Starlight Executioner. The humans had taken her husband in an early raid. She would never forgive their species. "And my daughter?" she asked, her voice maintaining its royal composure despite the fear that gripped her heart. "Princess Kira remains in the secured bunker below Echo 7's medical facility, Your Highness. The evacuation transport will arrive within the hour." Valixia nodded curtly. "Ensure she is the first aboard. I will join the front line." 20 kilometers away, combat medic Jasper Hayes ducked behind the twisted remnants of a transport vehicle as energy blasts scorched the air above his head. His planetary corps uniform was already coated with dust and the blood of soldiers he'd treated throughout the morning's offensive. "Hayes, Lieutenant Mercer," shouted over the din of battle. "We've got 3 more wounded in the eastern quadrant. Can you get to them?" Jasper readjusted his medical kit. "On my way, sir," he called back, checking the charge on his sidearm. Though sworn to save lives as a medic, Iridian had taught him that sometimes you had to fight your way to the wounded. At 32, Jasper had seen more battlefields than he cared to remember. The neural implant at the base of his skull, standard issue for combat medics, allowed him to quickly assess vital signs and trauma severity, but it did nothing to erase the memories of those he couldn't save. His dark hair was cropped military short, and a thin scar ran from his right temple to his jawline, a souvenir from a Silvari blade during his first deployment. He sprinted across the open terrain, diving periodically for cover as enemy fire tracked his movement. The Silvari were known for their precision. He had treated enough cauterized wounds to respect their marksmanship. "Keep pressure here," he instructed a young soldier as he finished wrapping a compression bandage around her comrade's leg. "Evac will be here in 15 minutes. Try to—" His words were cut short by a massive explosion that shook the ground. Turning, Jasper saw a plume of fire and smoke rising from the center of Echo 7 outpost. "They've hit the command center," someone shouted. Commander Herrick's voice crackled over the comm system implanted in Jasper's ear. "All units fall back to extraction point Delta. Repeat immediate withdrawal." Jasper helped the wounded soldier to his feet. "Let's move. We're pulling out." As the Earth Alliance forces began their tactical retreat, Jasper supervised the loading of wounded onto the hovering medical transports. The battle had been costly, but they had achieved their primary objective of disabling the Silvari communications array. "That's the last of the critical cases," Officer Trent reported, slamming the transport door shut. "We need to move now, Hayes." Jasper nodded, but something caught his eye. Movement in the rubble near what had been the outpost's medical facility. Perhaps another wounded soldier. "Go ahead," he told Trent. "I need to check something. I'll catch the next transport." "Hayes, don't be stupid." But Jasper was already running toward the ruins, his medical scanner active. The neural implant at the base of his skull tingled as it detected life signs, weak but present. He scrambled over fallen support beams and through a gap in the collapsed wall. What he found stopped him cold. A small, Silvari child lay, partially buried under debris, her pearlescent skin dulled with dust and blood. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, by human standards. The royal markings on her temples identified her as no ordinary civilian. Jasper's training kicked in before his conscious mind could process the implications. He carefully removed the debris and ran his scanner over her small form. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, severe concussion, but alive. Hayes, Lieutenant Mercer's voice came through his comm. "Where the hell are you? Final evac leaves in 3 minutes." Jasper looked down at the injured alien child. Everything he had been taught about the enemy, every battle he had fought against the Silvari, none of it mattered in this moment. This was a child, and he was a medic. "I found a survivor," he replied. "I'm bringing them in." He carefully lifted the small form, administering emergency stabilization treatment from his kit, as he made his way back through the ruined outpost. The child's eyes fluttered open briefly, iridescent purple swirls that reminded him of distant nebulae, before closing again. When he reached the extraction point, the final transport ship Condor was preparing for liftoff, its engines already warming. "What the hell is that?" Lieutenant Mercer demanded, as Jasper approached the ramp with his burden. "A child, severely injured." Mercer's face hardened. "That's a Silvari, leave it." "I won't do that, Lieutenant." "That's an order, Hayes. We don't take prisoners, especially not royal ones. Do you have any idea what you're carrying? That's probably the outpost commander's child." Jasper stood his ground. "I don't care whose child it is, it's a patient and I'm bringing her aboard." Officer Trent stepped forward, hand moving to his sidearm. "Hayes, you're risking the entire extraction for an enemy combatant." "She's not a combatant, she's a child. Now either shoot me or get out of my way." For a moment, no one moved. Then Commander Herrick appeared at the top of the ramp. "What's the delay?" he demanded. Mercer turned. "Hayes wants to bring a Silvari child aboard, sir." Herrick's weathered face showed no emotion as he assessed the situation. "Our orders are to secure the outpost and withdraw, not to rescue enemy civilians." "Sir." Jasper stepped forward, the child still cradled in his arms. "As Chief Medical Officer, I have to remind you that we're bound by the Interstellar Medical Convention. This is a non-combatant minor requiring urgent care." Herrick's jaw tightened, but Jasper knew he had him. The convention was one of the few agreements both sides still honored in this war. "Get her aboard," Herrick finally ordered. "But she's your responsibility, Hayes, and command will have questions when we return to base." "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." Jasper carried the unconscious child up the ramp and into the medical bay of the transport ship. As the Condor lifted off, he could see Silvari forces approaching the ruined outpost in the distance. Among them, a figure in ornate armor stood out, likely a commander surveying their recaptured territory. Little did he know that he had just taken the daughter of Princess Valixia, heir to the Silvari throne, and the most feared enemy of humanity in the quadrant. Valixia reached the ruins of Echo 7 Outpost as the last human transport disappeared into the clouds. Rage and fear competed within her as she surveyed the devastation. "Where is my daughter?" she demanded, her voice betraying none of the panic constricting her chest. Her second-in-command, Soreth, approached cautiously. "The evacuation transport never arrived, Your Highness. We've begun searching the ruins, but the human bombardment was thorough." Valixia strode toward the collapsed medical facility, her armor automatically adjusting to her quickened pace. "Focus all efforts here." She was in the secure bunker beneath this section. As her soldiers began clearing debris, Valixia noticed something among the rubble. A small pool of blood with an unmistakable shimmer. Silvari blood, with its distinctive bioluminescent properties. Nearby lay Kira's favorite story, crystal cracked, but still recognizable. A soldier approached, holding something in his hand. "Your Highness, we found this." Valixia took the object, a human medical scanner abandoned in haste. Its display still flickered with recent use. "They took her," she whispered, her markings flaring with a combination of hope and fury. "The humans have my daughter." Soreth looked alarmed. As a prisoner, the humans have never taken Sylvari captives before, much less children. Then, they have started now, Velixia said, her voice hardening as she clutched the scanner. And they will learn why that was their most grievous mistake. She activated her command frequency. Prepare my personal warship. We are pursuing the human transport. No matter where they go, we will find them. And when we do, I will personally kill every human aboard. The Condor shuddered violently as it entered Iridian's upper atmosphere, the pilot's voice coming over the intercom. Sylvari vessels in pursuit. All personnel secure for evasive maneuvers. In the medical bay, Jasper quickly stabilized his young patient, securing her to the bed as the transport rocked again. Hayes, Commander Herrick, appeared in the doorway. We've got 4 Sylvari interceptors on our tail. How's your patient? Stable for now, Jasper replied, checking the biomonitor. But she needs surgery once we reach... Another hit interrupted him, throwing both men against the bulkhead. We won't reach anywhere if those interceptors catch us, Herrick said grimly. The pilot's trying to lose them in the dust storms over the northern wastes. The commander's comm unit buzzed, and he listened for a moment before cursing under his breath. What is it? Jasper asked. That's not just any Sylvari force. Intelligence says it's the royal flagship. Princess Velixia herself is leading the pursuit. Jasper looked down at his patient, understanding dawning. This child, she's royalty, isn't she? Appears so. And if Velixia is personally commanding the pursuit, I'd wager this is her daughter. Herrick's expression darkened. We've inadvertently kidnapped the Sylvari heir apparent. Jasper felt the weight of this realization. I couldn't leave her to die. Your compassion may get us all killed, Hayes. The ship lurched again. But what's done is done. We need to... A massive impact cut him off as alarms blared throughout the ship. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the dim red glow of emergency lighting. Engine hit, came the pilot's panicked voice over the comm. We're going down, brace for crash landing. Jasper threw himself over his young patient as the Condor began its fatal descent. The medical equipment tore free from its moorings, crashing around the bay as the ship spiraled toward the surface of Iridian. The last thing Jasper remembered before impact was activating the bed's emergency crash protocols and thinking that Lieutenant Mercer had been right. He should have left the child behind. Consciousness returned to Jasper in painful increments. First came the smell, burning electronics and fuel. Then the sounds, the hiss of ruptured hydraulics, and the distant crackle of flames. Finally, the pain, sharp in his left leg and dull throughout his body. He forced his eyes open. The medical bay was in ruins, illuminated only by sparking panels and emergency lights. Most of the equipment had been destroyed in the crash, but the bed where he'd secured the Sylvari child had deployed its protective field. Dragging himself to his feet, Jasper limped to the bed. The child was unconscious, but alive, her condition no worse than before the crash. Small mercies. Hayes, Hayes, are you alive in there? Lieutenant Mercer's voice came through the twisted doorway, followed by the man himself, bleeding from a gash on his forehead. We're both alive, Jasper replied, checking his medical kit, which had somehow remained strapped to his side. What's our situation? Bad. We're down in the middle of the northern wastes. Engines destroyed, communications offline. Half the crew didn't make it, including Commander Herrick. Mercer glanced at the Sylvari child. And that royal fleet is still searching for us. Survivors. 11 including us. Most are injured. Jasper nodded, shifting into crisis mode. Let's get everyone we can into a defensible section. I'll start triage. Over the next hour, Jasper treated the survivors as best he could with limited supplies. 3 had injuries beyond his ability to treat in these conditions. They wouldn't last the night. The others, including Mercer and Trent, were wounded but stable. We need to move, Trent said as Jasper finished bandaging his arm. The Sylvari will find us soon enough. Move where? Jasper asked. We're in the middle of nowhere and half of us can barely walk. There's an Alliance outpost about 80 kilometers northeast, Mercer said, studying a cracked data pad. We can call for extraction from there. 80 kilometers through Iridian Desert, Jasper shook his head. With these injuries and minimal supplies, better than waiting for Velixia to find us, Trent muttered, especially with her daughter as our uninvited guest. Jasper looked at the Silvari child, who remained unconscious. Her condition was deteriorating. She needed proper medical care soon. I'm not leaving her, he said firmly. Mercer's face hardened. Then you're on your own, Hayes. The rest of us are moving out at dusk when the heat drops. Before Jasper could respond, a distant rumbling sound caught their attention. They fell silent, listening as it grew louder. Silvari ships, Trent whispered. They found us. Not ships, Jasper said, recognizing the pattern. Sandstorm, a big one. Mercer cursed, moving to the shattered viewport. In the distance, a massive wall of swirling sand approached, towering hundreds of meters into the sky. Change of plans, he said grimly. We're not going anywhere until that passes, and it'll cover our tracks. Maybe buy us some time. As the others prepared for the storm, Jasper returned to his patient. Her breathing had become shallow, her luminescent markings dimming. Bad signs. He administered the last of his stabilizing compounds, knowing it wouldn't be enough. Hold on, little one, he murmured. Just hold on. The sandstorm hit with apocalyptic fury, engulfing the crashed condor in howling winds and abrasive particles that found every crack in the damaged hull. Inside, the survivors huddled in the most intact section, listening to the ship groan under the storm's assault. Sometime during the night as the storm raged on, the Silvari child stirred. Her eyes opened, those remarkable purple-blue swirls, focusing slowly on Jasper's face. Where? She whispered in perfect English, her voice barely audible over the storm. You're safe, Jasper replied, surprised. I'm Jasper. I'm a doctor. Kira, she said weakly, before fear crossed her features. My mother. Rest now, he told her gently. You're injured. We'll figure everything out when you're stronger. She regarded him with those alien eyes, confusion evident. You're human. Why did you help me? Before he could answer, her eyes closed again, strength exhausted by even this brief exchange. The storm lasted through the night and well into the next day. When it finally subsided, they emerged to find the landscape transformed. Dunes had shifted, and much of the crashed ship was buried. Any tracks they might have left were long gone. We move now, Mercer announced. Grab whatever supplies you can carry. Jasper checked on Kira, finding her condition worse. She needs better care than I can provide here. Not our problem, Trent said coldly. Actually, came a new voice. She is very much your problem. They spun to find the exit blocked by a squad of Silvari soldiers, their weapons trained on the survivors. At their center stood a figure in ornate armor, her pearlescent skin marked with royal insignia, her eyes burning with the same purple-blue swirls as the child's. Princess Velixia had found them. Nobody move, Mercer hissed, reaching slowly for his sidearm. I wouldn't, Velixia said, her voice deadly calm. My soldiers are under orders to kill all but one of you. I would prefer to choose that one carefully. Her gaze swept over them, finally landing on Jasper and the child. Something flickered in her expression. Kira, she whispered, taking a step forward. Stay back. Mercer raised his weapon, but a precise shot from a Silvari soldier sent it flying from his hand, taking 2 fingers with it. He collapsed, screaming in pain. Velixia ignored him, her attention fixed on Jasper. You are the medic. It wasn't a question. Jasper nodded, standing his ground. Your daughter is alive, but barely. She needs advanced medical care immediately. For a long moment, Velixia stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to her soldiers. Kill the others. This one comes with us. No. Jasper stepped forward, placing himself between the soldiers and his comrades. If you want my help saving your daughter, you won't harm my people. You dare bargain with me? Velixia's markings flared dangerously. I'm stating facts, Jasper replied, maintaining eye contact despite his fear. I saved your daughter when I could have left her to die. I've treated her as best I could with limited supplies. Now I'm telling you she needs more than either of us can provide here. He gestured to the child. There's an oasis settlement 80 kilometers northeast. They have advanced medical facilities and accept all species. Your royal medical team can meet us there. But if you kill these people, I won't help you, and you'll have to find your way there yourself. Valixia's hand moved to her sidearm. I could simply torture the location from you. You could, Jasper agreed. But every minute you spend doing that is another minute your daughter slips away. The standoff stretched tension thick enough to cut. Finally, Valixia made a sharp gesture to her soldiers. Disarm them and bind them. They come with us as prisoners. She fixed Jasper with a piercing stare. You will walk beside me and explain everything you've done for my daughter. If she dies, your friends die one by one as you watch. Is that clear? Crystal, Jasper replied, gathering his remaining medical supplies. As they prepared to depart, Mercer caught Jasper's arm. You should have let them kill us, he muttered. Now we'll just die slowly. Maybe, Jasper said. Or maybe I just bought us all a chance. Under the merciless twin suns, the strange procession moved across the desert. Sylvari soldiers leading Princess Valixia and Jasper, walking side by side with Kira, carried on a makeshift stretcher between them, the human prisoners stumbling behind, under guard. Why did you take her? Valixia finally asked, breaking hours of tense silence. I didn't take her, Jasper replied. I found her injured and did what any doctor would do. I treated her. You must have known she was Sylvari royalty. I knew she was a child who needed help. Valixia studied him with suspicion. Humans don't help Sylvari. They kill us, steal our resources, invade our territories. Not all of us. What do you gain by helping my daughter? Jasper looked at her incredulously. What do I gain? Nothing. That's not why I did it. Everyone has motives, Valixia insisted. Political advantage, ransom, biological research. The motive was keeping a child alive, Jasper said firmly. Something I would have thought universal, even between enemies. Valixia fell silent at this, her attention turning to her daughter. For a moment, her regal facade slipped, revealing the concern of a mother. Will she survive? She asked, her voice softer. If we reach the oasis in time, yes, she's strong. The princess nodded, then straightened mask firmly back in place. For your sake, human, I hope you're right. They trudged onward under the scorching suns. By midday, 2 of the wounded human prisoners had collapsed, unable to continue. Jasper convinced Valixia to let him treat them, buying precious rest for the others. As he worked, he noticed Trent watching him with undisguised contempt. What? Jasper asked. You're helping them, Trent spat. Cooperating with the enemy that's killed thousands of our people. I'm trying to keep us all alive. Traitor, Trent muttered. Wait until command hears about this. If we survive, they can court-martial me all they want, Jasper replied, finishing the bandage. Right now, staying alive is all that matters. As they prepared to move again, a distant humming sound caught their attention. Valixia signaled her soldiers, who immediately formed defensive positions. What is it? Jasper asked. Automated drones, she replied grimly. Blackwood Industries security patrols. They shoot anything that moves in their territories. Blackwood, the Earth Corporation. The same. They claim large sections of Iridian for mineral extraction. She gave him a cold look. Another example of human exploitation. Before Jasper could respond, the drones appeared on the horizon, sleek, deadly machines moving in precise formation. They haven't spotted us yet, Valixia said. We need cover. Jasper pointed to a rock formation about half a kilometer away. There. They moved quickly, half dragging the wounded. They had almost reached the rocks when the drones changed course, heading directly for them. They've locked on, a Sylvari soldier called. Defensive positions, Valixia ordered. Prepare to engage. The drones attacked with ruthless efficiency, strafing their position with pulse weapons. Sylvari soldiers returned fire, downing 2 of the machines, but more appeared to replace them. They're herding us away from the oasis, Valixia realized, firing her weapon at an approaching drone. This is a deliberate interception. Trapped under fire, Jasper focused on keeping Kira protected, shielding her with his body as fragments of rock exploded around them. One of the human prisoners made a break for it, only to be cut down by drone fire before he'd gone 20 meters. "We need to move," Jasper shouted to Velixia over the din of battle. "We're pinned down here." "No escape route," she replied, her armor, scoring a direct hit on another drone, sending it spiraling into the sand. An explosion rocked their position, sending Jasper and Velixia tumbling behind a boulder. As they scrambled for cover, something fell from Velixia's armor, a small data crystal that skittered across the ground. Jasper grabbed it instinctively, but paused before handing it back. The crystal contained images, orbital scans of both Sylvari and human positions throughout the Iridian system. "What is this?" he asked, showing her the display. Velixia snatched it back. "Intelligence. Nothing that concerns you." But Jasper had seen enough. The tactical overlay, the positioning of forces. "Those aren't random deployments. Both sides are being manipulated, positioned for specific confrontations." Velixia's eyes narrowed. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Look at the pattern." Jasper pointed to the display. Earth and Sylvari forces are being deliberately positioned to clash at specific resource-rich locations. And those locations all belong to Blackwood Industries. Velixia finished studying the data with new understanding. Their realization was interrupted by a shout from one of the Sylvari soldiers. "Princess, the drones are retreating." Sure enough, the attacking machines were pulling back, regrouping at a distance. "Why would they?" Jasper began, but the ground beneath them answered his question, trembling ominously. "Tunneler," Velixia shouted. "Move now." They barely escaped as the sand erupted behind them, a massive mechanical worm bursting from the ground, its segmented body bristling with weapons. The monstrous machine towered above them easily, 15 meters high, before crashing back down in pursuit. "Run!" Jasper grabbed Kira's stretcher. "To those ridgelines!" They fled across the open desert, the tunneler churning through the sand behind them. 2 more Sylvari soldiers vanished as the machine overtook them, pulled into its grinding maw. As they neared the ridge, the ground ahead suddenly split open, revealing a hidden entrance. A figure appeared, waving them forward. "In here quickly!" With the tunneler bearing down on them, they had no choice but to trust the stranger. They dove into the opening, which sealed behind them, just as the tunneler reached their position. Inside, they found themselves in a dimly lit tunnel, faced by a mixed group of humans, and Sylvari all armed, and regarding them warily. "Welcome to Haven," said the woman who had let them in. "I'm Ellen. You're lucky we spotted you when we did." "What is this place?" Jasper asked, still catching his breath. "A sanctuary. One of the few places on Iridian where both species cooperate." Ellen looked pointedly at the armed standoff, developing between Velixia's soldiers and the human prisoners. "Though I see you're not quite there yet." Velixia stepped forward, regal, despite her dust-covered armor. "I am Princess Velixia of the Sylvari Empire. This is my daughter, who requires immediate medical attention." Ellen seemed unimpressed by the royal introduction. "We know who you are, Your Highness. Your reputation precedes you." She turned to Jasper. "And you are?" "Combat Medic, Jasper Hayes, Earth Alliance Planetary Corps," he replied. "I've been treating the princess's daughter since I found her injured at Echo 7 Outpost." This raised eyebrows among both the humans and Sylvari of Haven. A human medic treating the Sylvari heir. Ellen exchanged glances with her companions. "Now, that's something we don't see every day." She nodded to a tall Sylvari beside her. "Soreth, show them to the medical bay. The rest of you secure their weapons. No fighting in Haven, or we'll throw you all back outside with the tunneler." As Kira was rushed to the medical facility, Jasper found himself walking beside Velixia once more. "Did you know about this place?" he asked quietly. "Rumors, only," she replied. "A neutral settlement has been mentioned in intelligence reports, but most dismissed it as impossible." "Yet here it is," Jasper mused. "Humans and Sylvari working together. Out of necessity, perhaps, not choice." Does the reason matter if the result is peace? Valixia gave him a measured look but said nothing as they entered the medical bay, a surprisingly well-equipped facility carved into the rock of the ridge. Haven's medical staff, a mixed team of human and Sylvari practitioners, immediately went to work on Kira, while Jasper provided details of her injuries and the treatment he'd administered. "You did well considering your limited resources," the Sylvari chief physician told him. "She would not have survived otherwise." "Will she recover fully?" Valixia asked, her royal composure slipping again, revealing the anxious mother beneath. "With time, yes. The next 12 hours are critical, but I believe she will pull through." Valixia's shoulders sagged slightly with relief. She turned to Jasper, her expression complex, gratitude warring with ingrained hostility. "It seems I owe you a debt, human," she said stiffly. "You don't owe me anything," Jasper replied. "I was doing my job. Saving lives is what I'm trained for, regardless of species." "A noble sentiment, uncommon among your kind." "Maybe not as uncommon as you think." Their conversation was interrupted by Ellen, who approached with a serious expression. "Princess Medic Hayes, we need to talk in private." She led them to a small chamber off the main corridor, where Sorith waited with a data terminal. "We've analyzed the drone that attacked you," Ellen said without preamble. "It's not a standard Blackwood security unit. It was specifically programmed to target your group."
"Impossible," Valixia frowned. "How would they know our location?"
"Both of you have tracking implants," Sorith explained, displaying a scan on the terminal. "Standard for Sylvari royalty and Earth Alliance military personnel." Jasper touched the neural implant at the base of his skull. "Our position transponders are locked to our respective military frequencies. Blackwood shouldn't have access." "But they do," Ellen said grimly. "We've detected similar signals during previous drone attacks on both human and Sylvari patrols. Always in resource-rich areas, always resulting in both sides blaming each other for the casualties." Valixia's eyes narrowed. "You're suggesting Blackwood Industries is deliberately provoking confrontations between our forces?" "Not just provoking," Sorith replied. "Orchestrating. Creating incidents, manipulating intelligence, positioning military assets for maximum conflict." "To what end?" Jasper asked, though he suspected the answer. "Profit," Ellen said simply. "War is lucrative. Blackwood supplies weapons and equipment to both sides, extracts resources from contested territories, while you're busy fighting each other, and keeps expanding its corporate holdings across the system." Valixia shook her head in disbelief. "My people have lost thousands in this conflict. Our emperor, my father, committed our entire fleet based on intelligence reports of human aggression. Reports likely falsified or manipulated by Blackwood operatives," Sorith added. "We've been collecting evidence for months." "We need more than theories," Jasper pointed out. "If what you're saying is true, we need irrefutable proof to convince both governments." Ellen smiled thinly. "That's where you two come in. Two high-ranking representatives from opposite sides of the conflict working together. You could access areas neither of us can approach." "And where would we find this proof?" Valixia asked. "Blackwood's main command ship is currently in orbit," Sorith said. "It controls all their operations on Iridian, including the drone networks. If there's evidence of manipulation, it would be in their primary data core." "You want us to infiltrate a corporate battleship?" Jasper asked incredulously. "We have a plan," Ellen assured them. "But first, you both need to decide if ending this war is worth working together." Jasper looked at Valixia, seeing his own conflicted thoughts mirrored in her alien features. Years of hatred and fighting on both sides couldn't be erased in a day. Yet the possibility of peace, of ending the bloodshed, was too important to dismiss. "I became a medic to save lives," he said finally. "If this war is based on lies, we need to expose the truth." Valixia was silent for a long moment, her gaze distant. Then her eyes hardened with resolve. "My daughter nearly died because of this conflict. How many other children, human and Sylvari, have been less fortunate?" She straightened every inch the royal heir. "I will cooperate with your plan, for now." Ellen nodded approvingly. "Then let's begin." Over the next 2 days, as Kira recovered under Haven's medical care, Jasper and Velixia were briefed on the infiltration plan. The settlement's intelligence network had identified a vulnerability in Blackwood's security systems. A maintenance shuttle scheduled to dock with the command ship for routine updates. "You'll board posing as technical specialists," Ellen explained, as they studied the ship's schematics. "Soreth has modified your tracking implants to transmit Blackwood security credentials. That should get you past the initial checkpoints." "And once inside," Velixia asked. "Make your way to the central data core on level 8, Soreth replied. "Upload this extraction program." He handed them a small data spike. "It will copy all communication records between Blackwood and military leaders on both sides." "What about security forces?" Jasper questioned. "Minimal onboard personnel. Mostly automated systems," Ellen assured them. "Blackwood trusts its technology more than people. Their mistake." As the plan took shape, Jasper spent his free time checking on Kira, whose condition improved steadily. To his surprise, Velixia often joined him during these visits. "She asked about you," Velixia said, during one such occasion as they watched the sleeping child. "She called you the kind human doctor." Jasper smiled. "Kids are good judges of character." "She said you protected her during the crash landing and the drone attack." Velixia studied him with those mesmerizing eyes. "You risked your life for a Sylvari child. Why?" "I told you before." Yes, it's your duty as a medic," she interrupted impatiently. "But there's more to it than that. You defied your own people, risked court-martial or worse." Jasper considered his answer carefully. "My parents were killed in the early border conflicts when I was 10. I grew up in a military orphanage surrounded by children who'd lost everything to war. I became a medic because I wanted to save lives, not take them." He looked at Kira's peaceful form. "When I found your daughter, I didn't see an enemy. I saw a child who deserved a chance at life, just like any other." Velixia absorbed this, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. "My husband died in a human attack 4 years ago. Kira barely remembers him now." "I'm sorry." "I've led countless retaliatory strikes since then, killed many humans in battle," she continued, her voice distant. "I convinced myself it was just as vengeance for my people. But if this conflict was engineered for corporate profit," her markings flared with renewed anger, "then all those deaths were meaningless." "Not if we can end it now," Jasper said gently. "Not if we can prevent more children from growing up as orphans of war." Their eyes met, a moment of perfect understanding passing between them. Human and Sylvari enemies by circumstance, united by a shared sense of duty and loss. The moment was broken by Mercer's arrival. "Well, isn't this touching?" he sneered from the doorway. "Fraternizing with the enemy, Hayes." Lieutenant Jasper began, but Velixia cut him off. "You would do well to remember you are a prisoner here, human," she said coldly, royal mask firmly back in place. "Your continued survival depends on our goodwill." "I don't need goodwill from Sylvari scum," Mercer spat. "Your kind killed my brother at the Ceres outpost massacre. And your kind bombed our civilian settlements on Lyra 4, Velixia countered. "Shall we continue this pointless exchange of grievances?" Jasper stepped between them. "Both sides have suffered. Both sides have inflicted suffering. What matters now is stopping it from continuing. By conspiring with her." Mercer jabbed a finger at Velixia. "I've heard about your little mission. You're committing treason, Hayes." "I'm trying to find the truth. If we've all been manipulated into this war—" "Save your justifications," Mercer cut him off. "When we get back to Alliance territory, I'll make sure you face a military tribunal." He turned and stalked away. "Charming colleague," Velixia remarked dryly. "He's angry and frightened," Jasper sighed. "And he's lost people he cared about just like we have." Velixia studied him with newfound curiosity. "You defend him even when he threatens you." "Understanding someone doesn't mean agreeing with them," Jasper nodded toward Kira. "Stay with your daughter. I need to check on the other wounded." As he walked away, Velixia watched him go, her perspective on humans. Or at least this particular human. shifting in ways she had never anticipated. The evening before the infiltration mission, Haven's diverse inhabitants gathered for a communal meal. Despite initial tensions, the shared food and cautious conversation began to bridge the divide between the Sylvari soldiers and human prisoners. Officer Trent, however, remained apart, glaring suspiciously at the proceedings. When Jasper approached him with a plate of food, he refused it. "Not hungry," he muttered. "You need to keep up your strength," Jasper insisted. Trent looked up at him, eyes burning with resentment. "For what? So I can watch you betray everything we've fought for Mercer's right. You're a traitor." "I'm trying to stop a war based on lies," Jasper replied evenly. "How is that betrayal? You believe these aliens over your own kind." Trent gestured contemptuously toward the Sylvari. "You trust their word against Blackwood Industries, humanity's most advanced corporation. I trust evidence, and if we find proof that Blackwood has been manipulating both sides—" "Then what?" Trent interrupted. "You think it ends there, that we all join hands and sing songs of peace? We've been fighting the Sylvari for a decade. There's too much blood spilled." "That's exactly why it needs to end," Jasper countered. "How much more blood should be spilled for a corporate profit margin?" Trent scoffed, but said nothing more, turning away to stare at the wall. Across the room, Velixia was engaged in a similar conversation with one of her soldiers, who clearly disapproved of cooperation with humans. The princess listened to the soldier's concerns with regal patience, before responding with quiet authority that silenced further objections. Later, as preparations for the mission were finalized, Jasper found Velixia alone in the observation dome, a transparent bubble atop Haven that offered a view of Iridian's night sky, where 3 moons cast their pale light over the desert landscape. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, joining her by the dome's edge. "My people don't require as much rest as humans," she replied, her attention on the stars above. "I was thinking about home." "What's it like, your world?" A small smile touched her lips, the first he'd seen from her. "Silverus Prime is beautiful. Vast forests of crystal trees that sing in the wind. Floating cities woven from living light. Oceans that change color with the tides." Her expression grew distant. "Kira has never seen it. She was born here on Iridian during the campaign." "She will see it," Jasper said confidently, "when this is over." Velixia turned to him, studying his face in the moonlight. "Your optimism is unusual. Someone has to believe things can get better. And if we fail tomorrow, if we're captured or killed—" "Then we tried," Jasper replied simply, "which is better than accepting a lie." Velixia seemed to reach a decision. "There's something you should know." She produced a small data crystal, the same one he had glimpsed during the drone attack. "These aren't just tactical overlays. They're communication records between Blackwood executives and certain members of my father's court." Jasper's eyes widened as he reviewed the data. "They were working together. Your people knew about this manipulation." "A few did," Velixia said grimly. "Advisors who stood to profit from military contracts and resource concessions. Not the Emperor. My father is many things, but he would never sacrifice our people for profit." "Why are you showing me this now?" "Because tomorrow we risk everything on this mission, and you deserve to know what we might find." Her gaze was direct, unflinching. "The corruption may run deeper than we thought on both sides." "All the more reason to expose it," Jasper said firmly. Velixia nodded, something like respect in her expression. "Get some rest, Jasper Hayes. Tomorrow will test us both." The maintenance shuttle docked with Blackwood's command ship with practiced precision. Jasper and Velixia, disguised in technician uniforms, passed through the initial security checkpoint without incident, their modified implants transmitting the expected credentials. "Level 8 access is restricted," the automated system informed them. "Secondary authorization required." Soreth had anticipated this. Jasper connected the bypass module he'd provided, and after 10 seconds, the system responded. "Authorization accepted. Proceed." They moved through the sprawling vessel, following the memorized route to the central data core. The corridors were eerily empty, with only occasional security drones patrolling predictable patterns. I expected more resistance, Velixia whispered, as they reached level 8. Don't complain, Jasper replied, checking the corridor before proceeding. We're still a long way from... He stopped abruptly, as voices approached from an intersecting passage. They pressed themselves into a maintenance alcove, barely breathing, as two Blackwood executives walked past, deep in conversation. Shipment of plasma rifles to the Silvari outpost on Sector 9, one was saying. Ensure they're tracked. I want the Alliance forces to find them. Already arranged, the other replied. The ambush is set for next week. Should result in at least 300 casualties on both sides. Excellent. The board wants escalation in that sector. Mineral deposits are too valuable to leave unexploited. Once they had passed, Velixia's markings flared with barely contained rage. You heard them. They're planning attacks, manipulating both sides. Now we have confirmation, Jasper said grimly. Let's get to the data core and find the proof we need. The central data core hummed with power, a massive cylindrical structure, surrounded by processing units and security barriers. Jasper worked quickly, bypassing the outer firewalls, while Velixia kept watch. I'm in, he announced, after several tense minutes. Uploading Sorith's extraction program now. The data spike pulsed as it began copying files from the system. On the display, they watched as records of communications between Blackwood and military leaders on both sides were revealed. Fabricated intelligence reports, false flag operations, manipulated sensor data, all designed to provoke and sustain the conflict. This goes back years, Velixia whispered, scrolling through the files. Before the first official hostilities. They've been planning this war from the beginning. And profiting from every battle, Jasper added, noting the financial records that accompanied each military engagement. Billions in weapons contracts, resource extraction rights, reconstruction projects. A soft chime indicated the extraction was complete. Jasper removed the data spike, now containing all the evidence they needed. Time to go, he said, but Velixia hesitated, her attention caught by a particular file. Wait. Look at this. She pointed to a communication dated 1 week earlier. They're planning something big. A final solution to the Iridian problem. Jasper scanned the document, his blood running cold. They're going to trigger a massive planetary bombardment. Frame both sides for attacking civilian targets, then step in as peacekeepers, once both military forces are decimated. When? 3 days from now. He met her eyes, the urgency of their mission suddenly magnified. We need to get this information to both governments immediately. They were halfway back to the docking bay when alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Intruder alert. Security breach in Central Data Core. All personnel initiate containment protocols. So much for an easy exit, Jasper muttered as they broke into a run. Security drones converged from all directions, forcing them to take a different route. They fought their way through narrow maintenance tunnels and service corridors, Velixia's combat training proving invaluable as she dispatched drones with precise shots from a captured pulse rifle. The shuttle bay is sealed, Jasper reported as they reached a terminal. They've locked down all exit points. Alternative? Velixia asked tersely, reloading her weapon. Jasper studied the ship's schematics. Communications array. If we can't escape with the data, we can broadcast it directly from here. Lead the way. They battled through increasingly heavy security-sustaining injuries, but pressing forward with desperate determination. The fate of two species hung in the balance. The communications center was heavily guarded by both drones and human security personnel. They watched from a concealed position, assessing their options. Too many to fight through, Jasper admitted. Then we don't fight. Velixia's eyes narrowed in concentration. We create a diversion. Using the last of Sorith's technical tools, they triggered emergency protocols in a distant section of the ship, drawing most of the security forces away from their target. With the remaining guards distracted, they slipped into the communications center. Lock the doors, Velixia ordered, as Jasper rushed to the main console. I need 2 minutes to set up the broadcast, he told her, inserting the data spike. You have 1, she replied, taking position by the door, as alarms indicated security forces were returning. Jasper worked frantically, bypassing security protocols and establishing a transmission link to both Earth Alliance and Sylvari Empire frequencies. "It's ready," he announced. "This will broadcast all the evidence simultaneously to both governments' military commands and public information networks." Valixia joined him at the console, her shoulder pressing against his as they faced each other in this crucial moment. "Together," she said, placing her hand next to his on the activation control. As security forces began cutting through the sealed doors, Jasper and Valixia initiated the broadcast that would expose years of manipulation and corporate greed. The evidence flooded across all communication channels, irrefutable proof of Blackwood's orchestration of the entire conflict. Transmission complete, the system confirmed just as the doors burst open. Security forces stormed and weapons raised. An imposing figure in an executive uniform strode forward, Vance Blackwood's head of operations for the Iridian sector. "How predictable," he said coolly. "A Sylvari royal and a human medic thinking they could change the course of history." He glanced at a monitor, showing the transmission status. "Unfortunately for you, it's too late to matter. The final phase is already in motion." "We've exposed you," Jasper replied defiantly. "Both governments know the truth now." Vance smiled thinly. "Governments can be persuaded to ignore inconvenient truths, especially when trillions in profits are at stake. Your transmission will be dismissed as terrorist propaganda." "You're wrong," Valixia said with royal certainty. "My father will recognize the royal authentication codes embedded in this data. He will know it comes from me. And when both the Earth Alliance and Sylvari Empire realize they've been exploited," Jasper added, "they'll turn their combined might against Blackwood." Uncertainty flickered across Vance's face for the first time. He raised his weapon. "Then perhaps we should ensure neither of you complicates matters further." Before he could fire, the ship rocked violently, throwing everyone off balance. Emergency lights activated as the computer announced, "Warning. Incoming vessels detected. Sylvari and Earth Alliance warships approaching in formation." Through the viewport, they could see the impossible. Ships from both fleets moving in coordinated patterns, surrounding the Blackwood command vessel. "Surrender your weapons," came a transmission over the ship's communication system. "This is a joint operation of the Earth Alliance and Sylvari Empire. Any resistance will be met with deadly force." Vance's face contorted with rage and disbelief. He raised his weapon again, but Valixia moved faster, disarming him with a precise strike. "It's over," she told him, royal authority in every syllable. "Your corporation's crimes are exposed. There will be justice." As Blackwood's security forces surrendered, Jasper and Valixia were escorted to the arriving Alliance ships. Their mission complete, they found themselves standing before a joint delegation of Earth Alliance and Sylvari military leaders, who had responded with unprecedented speed to the evidence they'd transmitted. The broadcast reached both governments simultaneously, the Earth Alliance general explained. "It was convincing. We've initiated a temporary ceasefire while we investigate further." "There is no need for further investigation," the Sylvari commander replied. "The evidence is irrefutable. Blackwood Industries has manipulated our nations into conflict for their own profit." "What happens now?" Jasper asked. "Diplomatic channels have been opened for the first time in a decade," the general said. "It's a start." Back at Haven, which had quickly transformed into an impromptu neutral zone for peace negotiations, Jasper reunited with the human prisoners, who regarded him with newfound respect. Even Mercer and Trent, who had been forced to reconsider their perspectives. "You were right," Mercer admitted grudgingly. "We were fighting the wrong enemy." Valixia, meanwhile, was joyfully reunited with a fully recovered Kira, who immediately asked for the kind human doctor who had saved her. In the days that followed, as diplomats from both sides began the long process of building peace, Jasper and Valixia found themselves increasingly drawn together, representatives of what could be possible between their species. "My father wishes to meet you," Velixia told him one evening as they watched the sunset from Haven's observation dome. He's offering you a position as diplomatic liaison to the Silvari Medical Academy. And what does his daughter think of this offer? Jasper asked, studying her face in the golden light. Velixia's markings pulsed with an emotion he was beginning to recognize. His daughter thinks her father is very wise, she said softly, and that perhaps there is much our peoples could learn from each other. Jasper smiled, reaching out tentatively. After a moment's hesitation, Velixia took his hand, human fingers intertwining with Silvari. Below them in Haven's central courtyard, Kira played with children from both species, their laughter rising in the evening air, a sound of hope and the promise of a different future. The sun set on Iridian, bathing the desert in crimson and gold. Where once there had been only battlefield lines drawn in sand and blood, new connections were forming, bridges built by those brave enough to see beyond ancient hatreds and corporate manipulations. Jasper and Velixia stood together at the threshold of this new beginning, former enemies united by compassion, truth, and the unexpected bond that had grown between them. They had each taken an oath, he to heal, she to protect, and in fulfilling those promises, they had found a path to peace neither had believed possible. As darkness fell, and Iridian's 3 moons rose to illuminate the night, they remained side by side, watching over a world transformed, not by force of arms or imperial decrees, but by the simple revolutionary act of seeing the humanity in the alien and the shared future that awaited them among the stars.